Okay, this is how to make your candle holder base and then start rolling coils for your candle holder. So the first thing that you need is your pattern. You need to make sure that you have cut this out. So remember, we talked about how this isn't busy work. And then what we need to do is we need to find something that is the size of the diameter of this area right here, if this is your base. So we have a wide variety of cookie cutters and stencils. You could use that. You could use the top of something. You could even use the inside of a roll of tape. This one's pretty small, and I'm thinking that maybe I want to go kind of oval shaped, which we do have several different sizes and shapes. So you could go oval shape. If you go round, this might be a little small. You could do the outside of it as your base, that's fine. We even have squares, but when you do, if you're gonna do a square candle holder, that's fine. You're gonna end up with rounded edges to begin with. So now that I've chosen my cookie cutter for my base, so that is exactly the size of my base, then I can put this off to the side for a minute, and then I need to start making a base out of flat clay. Now, there's some traditionals that would say that you have to build this with coils. We don't do that because a lot of those do have or get holes in the bottom. You can use a small rolling pin for this or the medium one. I prefer the small one because we're really not doing a lot of, we're not using a lot of clay here. The other thing you can do is just throw it down on your desk to make a slab and then come back and roll it. Now, what you want is you want to have a base that is kind of thicker than your pinky. So it's about 1/4 inch thick to a 1/2 inch thick. And once you have this, then you're going to take and you're going to use your cookie cutter or your stencil or whatever it is, and you're gonna punch out the base of your candle holder. Now the rest of this clay you're gonna use, okay? So we have extra clay that we used for our other projects. So start there, but if you don't have any, what you wanna do is you want to start with new clay, all right? Now, this is my base. This is pretty small. And so the first couple coils that I'm gonna make are gonna be pretty small. So here's how you roll a coil. Rolling coils then, the process goes like this. One at a time, you're gonna roll one at a time until it gets some height on it. So to roll a coil, I usually roll in between this knuckle on my hand and my these knuckles here. What you do is you just roll forwards, and you don't want a super big coil. You don't want something that's super thick, but you don't want something that's super thin. So what you want to do is you want to get probably about 1/4 inch coil. Okay, so that's a good one. And I made extra here because this is probably going to go around twice. So what we could do is we could cut this off with a needle tool, or I could even use a rib to cut it off so that it goes all the way around, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start and I'm going to put this on as my first coil, okay? So we're not building this like the pinch pot anymore. Now some potters would say you need to have an insurance policy coil at the bottom of this if you're not going to score and slip it. Or you can score and slip the first coil. I don't usually score and slip the first coil because it should be the same moisture consistency as your other clay, but you could roll a baby coil and put it in there as well. So the next part is I'm going to put my baby coil into the bottom of this. And this is sort of an insurance policy coil for the inside. Okay, so there that is. And what we can do is we can use one of these tools, which is sort of a tool that will help you get into small spaces. And you can start to smooth in your first coil. Now, if you want to score and slip this, you can. I do not recommend scoring and slipping after this point. Now, you also want to kind of smooth in the seam itself. So now what I usually do is I just smooth in my first coil. Now this is a really small area, and so you'll notice that it might not be as smooth as you want it. You can come back after you get a little bit of height and you can use a rib on it as well, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I usually pick this up and I just start to smooth the outside. Now there's a couple of things that you need to remember when you're working on this. And that is, A, when you start adding these coils, it's not going to look that great in the beginning. So I'll come back after I have a little bit of height on this, and I'll show you kind of how we're going to smooth it. The next coil that we roll onto this, because my pattern sort of starts to go out, is we need to start rolling coils to the outside of this. And it's a very gradual thing. So our next one is going to be sort of to the outside of this, okay? If you were going in, your coil would be to the inside. And if you were just going straight up, it would be right on top of the one underneath. Okay, I'll be back after we have a little bit of height, and I'll show you what this looks like. Okay, so I've gotten a little bit of height on this. It still looks pretty bad. What you would want to do is you would want to come back with a rib and you would want to smooth this, okay, so that it is starting to take the shape that you want. And I always kind of smooth this direction and up and down. And that's kind of gonna get this pretty smooth. The final thing that I would probably do, and so when you're adding things, you don't want this to go too far out. You would want to kind of brace the outside when you're smoothing the inside and kind of brace the inside when smoothing the outside. I know that that's hard to do on smaller items. The other thing that you may want to do in order to smooth this as you go is paddle it. So once you start to get a little bit of height, you can start to paddle this into the shape that you want. So you'll also notice that my project is sort of a little wonky on the top, is what I like to call it. You can kind of see it from the side. If you need to, you can even paddle very gently from the top in order to even that out. Okay, so basically what you're going to be doing then is you're going to be building up one coil at a time until you get this thing as tall as you want it. So notice my project needs to be pretty tall. And so if I put this into my kind of pattern, I know that I'm not quite getting far enough out. So you always want to have your pattern out and you always want to keep this kind of next to it for reference. So this, I would have to kind of start to go further out. And I could do that at this point. I could stretch it out by just using my fingers, or I could, you know, let it go and start over. But that's basically how you start the candle holder and how you continue to build it.